I like to talk about the most poorly exploited natural resource on the planet. An ability where most of us have only explored a fraction of your potential. That is imagination. If I was the Prime Minister, there would be a subject in school called imagination. But I'm not the Prime Minister. I'm a musician. And when we make music, it's all about imagination. You imagine a sound, a rhythm, melody, then you bring that to life. This far, I released more than 350 records, and all of them have been a practice in imagination. The oldest music instrument found is a flute that is 40,000 years old. When you play it, it has the same musical scale we use today to compose most pop songs. So I think music came to us by the dawn of humanity. This is from a time when we were hunting mammoths and we shared the planet with Neanderthals until we made them go extinct. They had language, they had brains bigger than ours, but as far as we know, they didn't have art, they didn't have music. I'm thinking maybe they didn't have our imagination. So I wanted to find out, are we, the humans, the only ones that create music? So I gave synthesizers to the monkeys of Stockholm Zoo to see if they had any musical skills. They didn't. Maybe music is unique to our civilization on Earth, so I sent specially composed music into space as a business card from humanity. Now it has traveled 9 light years and still no reply. So that was yet another project of mine that failed. But I'm an artist, so it's not my job to succeed or to find the answers. My job is to ask the questions. How come some people seem to have a lot of imagination? They can navigate in a world of exponential change, when most of us cannot even imagine that the world is changing, that everything evolves all the time, maybe except from crocodiles and bicycles. But everything else can be and will be much better than it is today. For example, old cars, compared with what we have today, they were absolute crap. Old computers, really bad. We cannot even imagine what a computer will be or what it can do in 20 years from now. Music.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10,
When rock and roll was invented, people said, oh, this music, this is so fast and hard. And 20 years later, people said, oh, man, this is so aggressive. This is modern rock and roll. And believe me, in a few years, people will say, oh, that music, that was so slow and harmless. Because things change fast. We change the face of the planet, and we change as a species. We merge with technology. We are globally and digitally connected. The future human needs to imagine change, to imagine the future. Remember these guys? No art, no music, maybe not so much imagination, and we know what happened. When the old human looked at the horizon in all directions, and the stars seemed to be attached to a dome in the sky, and then the world must look like something like this, right? But in order to see a problem from the outside, from a place where you're not, or not yet, you need a lot of imagination. I'm sometimes amazed how little imagination we humans seem to have. This is a school a few hundred years ago, and a school of today. Do we have the best schools we can imagine? This is a residential house from ancient Rome, 2,000 years ago, and a recently built house in Stockholm. I'm not an architect, but I'm thinking, is this the best we can do? The cities we have, the ones we're building, are they the best we can imagine? Our justice system, the food that we eat, or modern democracy. We can choose between a few predefined sets of opinions, and then every 3 or 4 years, they ask us to put a piece of paper in a box. That idea is 2,500 years old. This is how our modern economy distributes wealth. If we want a free market where business and people can grow, is this the best we can come up with? This was the structure of power in ancient Egypt 5,000 years ago, and the structure of armies, and the structure of most big corporations. You start at a company full of enthusiasm, how things could change and improve. But everyone says, no, it's not our job to come up with new ideas. New ideas, they come from people above, right? And then you move up in the organization, not because of your imagination, but because you do the job the way you're told. One day, your loyalty has brought you to the very top, and you're the boss. And by now, you have totally run out of ideas, because they have never been promoted. So the very structures of our companies kill innovations. And it puts people in power who want power, not the ones that imagine and want change. How about schools? When small kids see a stick, they can imagine it to be anything. It could be a snake, a lightsaber, spaceship, and then we grow up and all we see is a stick. So our education system, is it a fun-packed adventure full of imagination? Or is it a certificate that you can do as you're told, sit still for 10 years, and then you can qualify for a lot of jobs? So the structures that were built based on old dictatorships and armies, how do we expect innovation to happen there? Sometimes we hear that a bad environment, a crisis, could be the drive for innovation, like global wars, space race. I believe that new ideas happen where people are happy, when they interact, when they have fun. From play, sometimes even from music. The first self-playing music instruments were also the first programmable machines. And that technology made it possible to start the Industrial Revolution. And the mechanics from another music instrument, the harpsichord, became the typewriter. So technology from musical instruments became the computer, and that changed the world. So this is one of the guys that invented this amazing material, graphene. A project they did before graphene was the levitating frog. They proved that if you put a living frog in a strong magnetic field, it becomes magnetic and floats in midair, which is not good for anything, but it's very cool. This is an early game for the Amiga computer. Not so impressive, right? But the guy who built this later come up with better and better ideas like PayPal, Tesla Motors, SpaceX, colonizing Mars. Most of us grow up and stop imagining. But some seem to have an imagination with no limits. So is it just intelligence? I think it's something else. I think it's a matter of training. We go to seminars to hear people talk about creativity and new ideas, like I'm doing right now. But does it make you more creative? To me, it's like reading a book about how to lose weight. I mean, in order to lose weight, you have to exercise. So in order to create To be creative, you have to create. In order to be innovative, you have to make actual innovations. So me and my colleagues make training camps for those who want to improve their idea-making skills. And we also make an innovation game where you have to come up with a completely new idea in 3 minutes and pitch it to the other players in 1 minute. Speed is important because then you don't have the time to think about obstacles. And playing together is important because almost all great innovations have been made by people collaborating. Having fun is equally important. For example, airports. That's a place where people could be nervous, maybe afraid of flying, feeling uncomfortable. We try to solve that with a drum machine. Because if it's so big, you have to make friends to make music. Pedestrian tunnels are the most hated parts of the urban infrastructure. People think they are ugly and scary, but we have to pass them. Building a bridge instead will be very expensive, right? So we made a system. If you sing some notes in a tunnel, the system picks up and sings back the same notes, but with a beautiful choir, like a guardian angel. So the tunnel is no longer scary. The sounds around us makes us stressed, and sometimes even sick. But they're hard to avoid because they come with urban life. Could we transform them into something inspiring instead? So we built an app that transforms any sound into funky music in less than 1 second. Making music with candy. So you compose a song and then you eat it. Music and alcohol has always been a very good combination, right? So we built a bar where the guests create music together with the drinks. Could we have superpowers for real? These superhero costumes block out one sense and replace it with a non-human super sense. This helmet makes you blind, but there are parking sensors pointing in all directions, connected to vibration motors on the inside of the helmet, so you can see in 360 degrees, but with vibrations. This superhero is deaf, but he can listen to people far away with a super directional microphone and talk to people far away with a very directional loudspeaker. Could money have a negative value? Think about that. We're building world's by far largest computer game. It's 385,000 kilometers long, the distance to the moon, connecting radio amateurs all over Europe. One sends a ping to the moon, and the first to pick up the bouncing signal wins the ball. So many ideas. Not always very practical or profitable, but always new. Because I believe everything can be reimagined. In 2006, different phone companies all made the best phone they could imagine. But in 2007, one company imagined a different phone, and everyone else followed. Because there was a better way to make a phone. Not so long time ago, women couldn't vote. We used to have slaves. And people thought, well, this is the way it is. We cannot imagine anything better. But there was a better way to live together. We think our society is pretty good. Maybe it's not. We think that we're free and smart and innovative. Maybe we're not. Maybe everything we know is just a poor excuse of what it potentially could be. But with our limited imagination, we can't see it. So if everything could be reimagined, maybe also this speech. Maybe you noticed that I put in some very stretched out music in the background, right? To all the slides in the presentation. So if I play fast forward, you should be able to hear the song. So next time you hear that it's not your job to come up with new ideas, will you be quiet? Will you accept? Or are you willing to reimagine yourself? Because the world needs you. It needs your sleeping superpower, your imagination.